Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Rise and shine, roommates. It's your girl, Asacia Turner, and I am here with one of the most amazing persons that I know. I went to school with him, and before I introduce him, I just want to apologize for myself. I know I look crazy, and I'm not in my studio, I'm in my room, but I hopefully you guys appreciate the real view of in my room. So back to our guest, Bobby Caze. That's just like a famous name right there, G. Like, that's a signature written on everybody's wall. He's an amazing person. I'm happy I get to interview him today simply because we were speaking about caring for your race, your culture, and so much more. And I really feel like he's going to bring us a great conversation today because he speaks from the heart, he speaks from his mind, and he definitely speaks the truth. So nothing is sugar coated today because I feel like when it comes to February, this is the most time that we need to speak our real truth. A lot of people are miseducated throughout the rest of the 11 months. And it's sad that we only get 28 days, 29 every 4 months, I guess, or 30, whatever you want to put it. So we're here to educate everyone about the Black community, the culture, and just a little bit of our feelings and thoughts in this time in this generation. So, Bobby, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All
Let's
right.
do this.
And excuse me because I talk a little fast because although like I'm hyped, I usually low key am nervous every episode. So if I'm talking too fast, like just let me know.
All right.
All right. So we're just gonna start off on like a major topic that I just want to speak about. Speaking about brown skin. Now, when I say brown skin, I'm not speaking of African American. I'm speaking of like the cultures or the races of Haitians, Africans from Africa, Jamaicans, Trinidadians. When I speak about all brown skin races, do you believe that that should be implicated in the African American history?
I think yes. I think that should be implemented in Black history in general. I do think it's important when we mention African American history that we mention the actual African Americans or the descendants of American slavery, like those that have been here for centuries. And I think that's good to have our own name to that. And if you ever heard, there's a movement right now, Foundation of Black Americans. You got ADOS. We're trying to claim that lineage and bring tangibles to those groups of people. So I think that it's important to recognize that, but I think it's important that we recognize all nations and ethnicities of Black history because that's very important.
Right. And before we really get into depth, what is your race when it comes to the Browns? I like to say brown skin race because a lot of people, and I'm gonna just feel like this. I came from Wall High School, nicknamed White Wall. So the sad part is they think just because your skin is brown, we all share the same culture, the race, morals. They really don't understand the difference of each culture. So, like I'm African American. I was born and raised in America, which I'm not really proud of. I'm not even gonna lie, and I'm never gonna hide that. Like, but what are like yeah where do you come from, where's your origin?
Um, I'm African American. My mom's side definitely, or foundational Black American. Um, and then on my dad's side, I actually have Haitian in me also, and I'm very proud of both lineages. So yeah, it's pretty. I get the best of it. I get to see life from a different culture, one in Caribbean and then one here. So it's very interesting.
See, I didn't even see, and that's like you just educated me because you said your dad is Haitian, correct?
Yeah,
And
right,
then I didn't think that Haitians and Caribbeans were, I felt like those are two different origins, so I didn't even know
hmm
that those integrated together.
right.
And that's the
Yeah.
education that yeah, that's the education I'm speaking about. Like it's I feel like education is really important, and I always say like I'm an educational person. I love education. I'm always trying to find something new to learn. Just the school system isn't teaching us the right education, and something
hmm
like that should really be taught to us simply because I feel like everybody is important. And living in America, this is a salad bowl or a mix, however you want to put it. Like we're all mixed together, so
hmm
one or I feel like two races shouldn't be focused on, and the two races are either white and black. They aren't divided how they should be, and like
hmm
divided in the most positive way. So
I totally agree. I agree with that.
now you run SLB. How is that? How is being the president of something? I feel like no matter if you're a small group
BSU,
or
Black
big
City
group,
Union.
huh?
BSU, I run BSU. I don't run SLB. I wish.
Oh, that's what I meant though. Black
Yeah,
City
yeah, yeah.
Union, Black
Okay.
City
Okay.
Union. We're
Yeah.
with you still. But what is the feeling of running something? So I feel like when it comes to Black people, everything's legendary to me. Like that's how much I love my skin. So
Mhm.
how important is you, or how great is it running something so legendary? Because you can really make that into something so different, so powerful, and so changing, and you really have the opportunity to do that.
Right. And so what I've been doing is I've been focused on basically Black empowerment. So ever since the semester started, last semester started in the semester, I've been bringing in guests from all different backgrounds. We
Hmm.
brought in vice presidents of corporations. We brought in politicians.
Bobby, where are you at for the Black community over here? What?
I tell you, Black empowerment. That's what I want for our people. So I'm bringing in all kinds of people. We're bringing in ladies. We have Brookdale administrators who were giving out scholarships, talking about, hey, apply to scholarships that have helped me. And I brought them here, and a lot of BSU students got to apply and got awarded scholarships. So that was a very important thing. And what we do is, and when we don't have get special guests, what I usually do is I go over like history lessons, and I say, we'll talk about events that you may not have known of. And I think that's very important because a lot of times with Black History Month, we shouldn't wait for the school to teach us Black history. As a Black people, we should be teaching ourselves Black history to our kids, our family every single day, because other communities are doing that. The Jewish community, they're teaching their kids Jewish history all the time. And I think that's very important
Right.
because there's a lot of things that we need to prevent from never happening again. So that's why
Mm.
I'm very,
Yo, you're getting pressure, yo. I'm liking this. I really am.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. But I think, yeah, I acknowledge Black History Month, but I celebrate Black History Month, Black excellence every single day, you know?
That's what's up. And like I really wish a lot of us, and like including myself, like I'm not gonna act like I'm the best, but I really wish a lot of us had that motivation because simply like it's like you show like you do it with grace. It's not hard. It's you made that into like a everyday thing, just as like cooking and washing your ass is an everyday thing. You made that into an everyday thing, which is effortless for you, which should be effortless for everybody else because people think like, and like I said, including myself, like sometimes I feel like to get the truth, like you have to dig so deep because the
Right.
truth has been buried for such a long time. So it's like really hard trying to get into your background and try to educate yourself on your history. But no, like that right there just gave me motivation. I'm like, damn, like this kid is in school. He's running a club and then like he's still putting his foot on people's necks for his culture. Like that
Mhm.
should give everybody just a push to really start getting into who they are, no matter if you're African American or a different other race, which is
Mhm.
great. Now, tell me, give me an example of one of the guests like you brought in, and how did they make an impact on your club?
Okay, so one guest, we had a couple of guests, but we brought the
I'm
politician that we
jealous.
brought in. The politician that we brought in, she ran for councilwoman, and she was very good. And this was right before the election, so she told people basically, you know, what they could be possibly voting for in the states, the local, and the national election. And she talked about that, and I thought that educated a lot of students about a lot of things. And one guy, he was one of our advisors' brother, and he came in. He was a vice president of New Jersey Natural Gas, and I really loved that because he talked about his struggle. He's been to Ivy Leagues and stuff like that. So he talked about how he had to deal with um, racism and how he overcame it, and which I love to hear about that. Not just like wallowing on it, like how he overcame it and persevered and became vice president of the corporation. So that's the guest that we were having, and it's really interesting. And we also had one guy. He was like a pastor, and um, he talked about a lynching that happened, and he talked about how people always think of lynchings in the South. They always think of racism in the South, but there's stuff that's happened in the North too, in Jersey. And a lot of times, that's the biggest thing that goes around. They always blame racism on the South. Then the South says, "Oh, well, we're not racist. It's just our heritage and stuff like that." But really, racism is anywhere, south of the border, the Canadian border, and and it's global. So I think it's important to know that, because a lot of times, it depending on who you get your sources from, you'll get misinformation.
Right. And I like that you talk about the topic of racism not just being in the South, because I've encountered racism about 3 times. Uh
Mhm.
2 at work and one at a work party. And I live in Jersey, and I tell my sisters who live in the South, like, I never really experienced racism how they do, and it's hard for us to even identify it. So that's one thing I also wanted to talk about, and I feel like that is a great thing to talk about in Black History Month, because some people are so ignorant to the fact of what they're saying, they don't even understand they're coming off as racist.
Mhm.
And then some people, as African American, are so ignorant to the fact, because where we're from, we
Yeah.
can't identify if somebody is being racist or that's just who they are. And it's sad, because I feel like it is a lot of excuses that's going on, because I made excuses for other people, and I go home and feel sick to my stomach because I never knew how to handle that situation. Because
Mhm.
no matter if you handle the situation due to somebody being racist to you, you always look like that angry Black person,
Mhm.
which like
Yeah.
pisses me off. But yeah, have you ever encountered racism in Jersey or anywhere else?
I mean, yeah, I like to say, like, because I like to say our system is basically like a white supremacist system. You say racism because that's really what's the biggest issue, is white supremacy. Because, and a lot of people, they may think white supremacy, you're wearing a Klan mask, but really no, that's like white extremism. But you say white supremacy because in the education system, you will have a teacher, and then you'll be young. I remember when I was 4 years old, 5 years old, and teachers used to be always hard on me. They would always single me out, and they'd be calling me crazy and stuff like that. And I remember that. And they would always target me. Like, these kids, other kids of other races would be punching each other, beating each other down. Me, if I had like called out, they'll be calling the principal and stuff like that. They'd be going crazy and stuff like that. And that's when I started to realize I'm different. And I knew I was different from all the other people. And I grew up around, I go to church around Black people in Brooklyn, and then in Jersey, I'd go to school. So I've known I picked that up. I'm like, hey, so I realized, hey, I'm targeted, and my parents would educate me on these things, so I would always know how to handle things and stuff like that. And I've always been a rider. I've always been fighting against this because I know it was wrong, and I do everything I can to tell my parents. And then I had my parents call up the school, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then those teachers would never mess with me again. But yeah, I had to grow up with that. It would be crazy. Every time I did a little thing, the teachers would just freak out, and I'm like, well, these kids are literally screaming their heads off, and they're like, "Oh, that's just him." So I think that's how Black children, specifically Black boys, we get targeted because we have cultural differences. If you look at the special education system, it's about 80% of special ed kids are Black boys, and that's because we're targeted, and that's a form of white supremacy too, because there's no way, it doesn't make any sense. We're not 80% of the population, so how are we 80% of this
Right.
special ed? So we're targeted there. Anytime we do one little thing, they're trying to put us in special ed, they're trying to put us on medicine, which is going to mess us up and hurt us in the future. So it's important to realize that those little things with teachers and how you experience stuff in school, that really could affect you.
I'm gonna just say this right here, and I do this with all my guests. Well, not all my guests, but if you really give me a genuine feel, I'm always gonna praise you, and I'm gonna. This is like probably a cut. I'm about to praise you right quick, Bobby. Like, somebody like you, and just honestly hearing you speak, like this conversation is like motivational. Like, I can't believe, like, the facts you're coming out with, like, 80%. I didn't even know that. Like, so you're coming out with facts. You're coming out with real life examples, and I really like. I need you to like educate. Like, it's like you might like. I'm gonna just put it right here. I need to give you like your own little session where you just, you take over my platform and you educate, because like you are spitting out facts in real life, like I said, examples that people really wouldn't understand. My goal this month is not to just educate the Black community, it's to educate all communities, because like I said, coming from Wall and just not being able to be understood, and just seeing like those, like seeing the sorry the Caucasian race pull in African Americans just by materialistic things. It's just crazy to me. And to me, going to that school made me realize how golden our race is. Like we are probably the one of the most hated races just because we do what we want to do, just because of who we are. And I like to say, slavery, the people, we weren't the ignorance in slavery. The white men were the ignorance in slavery, because the only reason why you need a slave is if you're too ignorant to do something yourself, which is completely true to me. Like, you only need somebody if you don't know what you're doing, and that's ignorance. So yeah, I just feel like, I don't know, I'm just that giddy person that loves that get giddy over educational things, and just know that like, oh, like I feel like what he just said is really going to make a change, or really make an impact. And I see that in my episodes all the time, and I'm really excited for this one, because I really like this is going to bring us into the next topic, but I really, really want to see a change in the Black community before I even have my own little community. Like, before I have my own kids, like I really want to see a change, and I really want to see us prosper. People might hate this comment I'm about to make, but it's true. Like, I feel like it's true. People say history repeats itself, but not in the same way. And I feel like history will repeat itself, but I feel like we will be the overcomers. And I don't feel like we will repeat it as we will take white people, make them our slaves, but we will be the overcomers, as we will be on top, because I feel like we are the strongest race. Now, I'm not trying to knock down anybody's race or belittle anybody's. It's just what I've seen, what I know, and what I believe that we can do if we just stick together and, like, stay one-minded, one track, and have that one goal. So that brings me into the topic where we talked about on Tuesday. How is the Black community hurting ourselves more than we're helping?
I say because we live in a system where it's perceived as white is superior, white is better, and has always been, because of white supremacy. How that affects us, it affects us in different ways. You have people that you have your coons now, stuff like that, who just can't take being Black. They want to do anything they can to, you know, undermine, to change their complexion, stuff like that. And it's a sad thing it's a very sad thing. And I don't really blame them. I blame the system that we're in, that's being perceived by that. And we have to recognize that instead of saying, hey, you're this, you're that, and understand we're in the system and it affects people differently. So I think that's one way. Coon, if you're a coon, you have self-hate, stuff like that. That's a very bad thing. But another thing is we're very silly about serious things and serious about silly things.
Right.
And I know we kind of talked about this Tuesday. We had a pretty good movement last year, fighting for justice for Black Americans and this and that. But when it came down for elections, I felt a lot of people were very silly about things. And you see that kind of now with the election with Biden in office. A lot of Black people are getting mad. They're saying, hey, why is he doing stuff for this group and not us? But me, I knew I kind of expected this because he never said he was going to do this. Like a lot of times, Black people, they're always putting this mythical and magical things on, Democrat politicians or any politicians for that matter. They'll never say, like, even if they never said they'll do something, they never wrote it down that they'll do something. They just believe they'll do it. They just have hope and belief. And I feel that's what hurts a lot of people because, a politician isn't going to do anything that didn't promise. He doesn't have to. And a lot of times people saying, well, yeah. And a lot of time, and I see a lot of people getting mad. I'm like, don't get mad. You should have known this. Because I know I was telling people, hey, you can't vote for something that nobody promised you. So
Right.
that's what I got to say.
I definitely agree on that. I definitely believe we are hurting ourselves, because I feel like we need to start with the small things. Like, it's gonna sound crazy, but I feel like we should forget all the political things and be able to feel like we're living in our own world in America, meaning we have to start with ourselves. Like, I would never understand. Yeah, I love watching documentaries behind anything, and this is one thing I do watch documentaries behind is like drug lords and trafficking and shit like that. Like, I would never understand the gang life.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I would never understand the grace that somebody feels killing one of their own.
Mm.
That's what I don't get. I would never understand the grace of putting one of your own behind bars before you can help them, because I know damn well it's a lot of projects and a lot of building. I can't even. I guess I don't even know what to say. Facilities that people can go to before you hit jail.
Right.
Um, that's what something I don't understand that we do to hurt ourselves. Like, for example, like pitting, like, I don't understand like people like families putting their child aside. Like, I know a family and I would never understand this, so I'm not going to let their business out, but this is just a small example. Like,
Hmm.
just pushing your child out the way and making them live on their own at a young
Hmm.
age is not looking out for your community, because
Right.
that's just putting them down a path of trouble. So, make a long story short, we have to start in small steps. We have to look out for one another before we expect anybody else to look out for us,
I
and we're
agree
not
with
even
that.
on that path. We have to make sure that we have our own, our each other's backs before we ever expect somebody like, and
Right.
honestly, like Kamala Harris, like we can't expect her to have our back, because although she's black, she's on a whole different pedestal than us. We have to start small. And that's what I think what hurts us. We don't really think about each other. We look for others to help us, which isn't great.
I definitely agree with that. I think we need to be doing our own things. I think we need to be doing for self. I think we need to be building an economic base. So, anytime you have a problem with politicians, you could fund their campaigns and stuff. Say, hey, push this agenda, push that agenda, because that's what a lot of other groups are doing. If you look at the LGBT community, they're like 4%, 5% of the whole entire population. Black people are 14, but they get more stuff done than us. Because why? Because they got people, they got an entrepreneur class. And even with the Jews, even with the Asians, um, they got an economic class that's pushing these agendas. And that's what happens. It's not about who has the most votes and stuff like that. If you have money, you have the resources, you can push a lot of things. And I think that's very important that we need to be doing for self and doing our own things and not having to worry about, oh, what is this politician going to do for me? Oh, what is she going to do? Oh, like, and stop relying on basically like a white savior mentality that we can't do anything without white folk. So I
Right.
think a lot of people, they gotta break out of that. And because that's very real. Because we're in a system of white supremacy, they think they gotta rely on a white mommy or a white daddy for a lot of their things.
And it's funny that you said that, because I also believe once a African American or any race believes that, because it comes down to any race versus white, which is true.
Mhm.
So, especially in America. So, I believe when it comes down to when you start believing that you need a white person to enhance your ability or your life, that's you're giving them power. You're letting them know that no matter where you go, they are controlling your steps. So, back to like to what you were saying, you were like that you never want to work under anybody else, which is correct. I feel like everybody should feel like that. And bringing down to I want to speak it, and this is I don't want to get like off track, but that's how usually my shows go. But like I just don't want to educate people, like I said in the beginning, it's not really about educating what happened in the past, because I don't really dwell on the past. I feel
Right.
like that just creates heart and hate in your heart. I can't dwell on slavery, what happened to my ancestors. I definitely appreciate the hardship they went through for me, but I can't fight somebody over something I have never experienced, I've never been through. So I don't hold that pain for the past. So my Black history really isn't about the past, but it's about the now and the future, because we have to focus on the future. And I think that's another reason why we haven't really made progress, because we're so pressed on getting an apology for the past, and none of us lived in the past.
Right. And I agree with that. But I agree with that when you said we shouldn't dwell on the past. And that's good because a lot of times what happens is everybody other group is talking about where they're gonna go. Us, we talk about the past. Yeah, I agree, but I definitely agree with that because we need to be talking about because a lot of times every time they're talking about black people, oh you were this, oh you were that, but they never talk about the solutions. They'll say all the statistics and be like, oh. black people are harmed like this, they're affected by this, they're affected by that, but they never talk about solutions. But I kind of disagree with the whole, slavery thing and stuff like that, because a lot of our problems are rooted from that. And because, they never dealt with that problem, they always ignored it. When we were free from the plantations, we were free with like nothing. Other groups that come here, they had an agenda, they knew this, they knew that. Us, we didn't really have that. And that's what really is still affecting us, because after that, we never got reparations. We never got this. Even when we tried to build our own banks, you had white people stealing the money, the Freeman's banks. We put money in there, and we were building our economic base.
That's crazy. I'm like reading a book on that right now. I just looked around my bookshelf and I was like, what? Like, did he what? Yeah, awesome. That's funny. Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, and what happened was, we were doing for self, but every time we tried doing for self, you always had you had this white person or white supremacist harming us, taking resources. We had what was equivalent to billions in that bank, but some white guy, he was literally stealing out of it and stuff like that. That's one example. You probably heard of all the black communities that were torn down when every time we were building up millionaires in a community, it was getting torn down, like Black Wall Street, Rosewood.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I heard it was a Black Wall Street, but I didn't get to look into it.
Yeah, that started, and that when you look at that, we had a lot of advancements. We had a lot. We were very powerful. We had millionaires there, and this is the 1920s, and we had plumbing. This was before this was like a mainstream thing. Like, we were having all kinds of stuff that wasn't normal in outside societies, and I can get into that a little bit because I know, the story why it happened.
Educate us.
Okay, so basically, what happened was a lot of race riots. There's always an accuser of rape by a white woman, or sexual assault of a white woman, and that happened with Emmett Till, which started the civil rights movement as we know it. So in Tulsa, basically, there's different stories, but what I heard was that there was this white guy, a black guy, and a white girl, and they were a couple, and I guess these white people saw them making out in the elevator or something like that. So rumor gets started that he sexually assaulted her, because and then all of a sudden, people are getting mad and they start trying to burn down Tulsa, the Black Wall Street, and there was other black communities that were trying to get in, but what they did was they, white society, they kind of like cut off all of our communication outside and stuff like that, and that's why, and they were bombing us and stuff like that, and a lot of people lost their lives. Hundreds of people lost their lives, and thousands of people lost their homes and businesses. So, and that brings us back to the points where, you said don't dwell on the past, but a lot of that stuff still affects us to that day. And what happened was, our problems are economics because of that. Anytime we try to do something economic, somebody's getting taken out. It's always, you notice every time we have a black celebrity, they never die a peaceful death. There's always something funny. It's always something weird. They're getting killed. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's because a lot of that affects us. We never really dealt with our main problem, as economics. And when you don't have economics, people are allowed to harm you. A lot of groups, they hate us because we're black, but they're able to victimize us because we're poor. So, and that's all rooted back from America's original sin, slavery. So I obviously understand. I don't say, oh, like, I don't be like crying when I say that. I'm saying that because, hey, we need to move on. We need to do something about this, and we need. I don't understand how we don't have reparations right now, and I'm very pro reparations because we don't just deserve reparations for slavery, for Jim Crow, the black codes, the slave codes, discrimination, segregation. We need it for all that stuff, and a lot redlining, housing discrimination. All that stuff is still affecting us now. If America lost $16 trillion based on anti-black racism in the past 20 years alone. America's losing money, and it's just to harm us. And when you said other groups, we're the most hated race. We are by far. We are.
It's okay. Like,
yeah.
So.
Yeah. We're public enemy number one, and that's fact. But that's all right because we just need to handle our business. We need to get serious. And when it's time to elect politicians, we need to be like, hey, what's your black agenda? What are you going to do for us? What tangibles? Because that's what other groups are getting. You see, You see immigrants, you see Hispanics, Asians. They were getting executive orders by Joe Biden. Joe Biden signed a racism law and excluded black folk. He did it for Asians and Pacific Islanders, but nothing for black people. But
This.
this was, I think this was a few days ago, maybe last week. He signed it on that, and people don't know that. And that's what I'm saying. I knew he was going to do stuff like that. I knew he wasn't really going to do anything for black folk. So that's why I was never a supporter of him because of his track record and everything. But he was doing that for that. But you got a lot of black people when he was elected, they were just rejoicing and happy. And I'm like, okay, you know, what is he going to do? He never said he was going to do anything for us. So
Right. The only thing that he really could do for us is, I guess, not embarrass us on social media. You know, that's the only great thing I feel like Joe Biden can do. Speaking about the election, like I know I told you my view on Tuesday, and I know a lot of my listeners know my view that I didn't vote for neither of them because although Kamala definitely represents a strong Black woman and allows African American and other races of brown descent, of brown skin color, to believe that they can be more than what the white man tells you, I don't believe that Kamala is really behind us for the right reasons.
I agree.
Who wouldn't want to be in the White House? That's all I'm gonna say. Like, you know.
Right,
So
right.
speaking, I wanted to just go back speaking on um the disagreement that you had with me, which I totally respect. I definitely want to ask you, so as being able to say that we are as a Black community still struggling with the fact that what happened in the past, if you had the chance, and I feel like I don't care what nobody say, I really feel like, Bobby, you have the chance to make a movement of your own, to like you will be, and I'm not saying this because we're on, I don't want you to ever feel like I'm just juicing you up, because I would never do that. I'm telling you the truth.
Right,
I
right,
really
right.
feel like you are the next activist, and I don't know what you do behind the scenes or like why you can't push harder, but because I know you're in school, that's probably why, duh. But I really feel like once you get the time, I really feel like you are going to be the next flip. And just thinking about it, like I really can't wait. Like I'm just listening to you, I'm like, okay, damn, like I really want to do something with him like in the summer, revolving around African American, because I don't want to crush it all into February because that's not fair to us. So anyway, going back to what you said, that it's still like a problem for us what happened in the past, what would you do to, or what steps would you do to get through it, or to even try to be able to be not content, but it's gonna be hard to say, but like to accept the past and continue in the future, because we have to accept the past. I'm not saying we have to in a forceful way, but we have to for our own peace, if that makes sense.
Right. And I think the solution to that is to have an economic agenda. When when Jewish people went through their Holocaust, they had reparations. They dismantled white supremacy in Germany. They completely dismantled it. You don't see any Nazi flags. You don't see any Nazi statues and stuff like that. That's what they had. They had Nuremberg trials, and they're still going after alive Nazis. Not even people who were just there, who associate with them. They're going after them and they're jailing them. And I respect that because, but what happened? Yeah, what happened was we never had that. We never had our Nuremberg. We never got rid of our oppressors. They kind of tried it, but not really. And we never got any tangibles for building the country. Slavery, we built that economic base. Before we got here and before we were building it, America wasn't, the white folk that were here, they weren't really doing anything. That's why they had to have us. That's why they had to have slavery, because we built America. And what happened is basically we need something, we need to be compensated because we're still feeling the roots. We're still feeling the effects of it because the system is out to get us, because that's how it always has been. And that's why I say we deserve an economic shock. That's why our biggest problem is economics. We're losing America's losing trillions just on discrimination and racism on us. And they're coming out with that. So I'm saying, hey, the biggest problem, I guarantee you, they cut a check for us. They start putting this Marshall Plan like they did Japan after they bombed Japan. They gave them a Marshall Plan. All their inventions happened from the money and the influence of America, and that's why Japan looks as lovely as it does today. Because it was behind before the World War II. It was behind. It was behind now. It was very behind. But what America did after, Hiroshima, they gave them a Marshall Plan, and and now they're advanced. They got a lot of advanced stuff. They're more, in some aspects, they're more advanced than America.
Mm.
And but they never did that with us. And that's the biggest problem, because our biggest problem is economics. And if America really wants to right their wrongs, they should do reparations, start with economics, then reparations for the medical field, the law enforcement, all the harm that they're doing, because we're so affected by the system of white supremacy that affects us in everything you
Mhm.
can think of.
No, I definitely I agree with everything you said, and I just want to pull a point when it comes to like the economics, because I definitely believe that we are the most suppressed when it comes to that, and that's why we aren't thriving in our lives. And I hate, like, I had my mom and most of my family members, we don't do, obviously we don't live on it now, and I'm grateful for it, but I grew up on Section 8 food stamps, and I see how much the government can control a African American person on that. And I promised myself I would never be under the government under no circumstances. And that's when I made the plan to myself. And then I looked into black businesses that I love, that I use, and I used to, and then I figured out that they were bought out by a white man. So I've made a promise to myself that I'm going to work as hard as I can in my life to be as rich as I can, just to buy them businesses back and sell them back to my community for a lesser price. Like, I am here just like, you're probably like, you are more like pro than me. You really are. I'm not even gonna lie. But that's one thing, that's my main goal in life. I don't feel like I'm living for anybody else. I feel like I'm living for my culture, which is a great thing. And I definitely want to see my race prosper before I go. And that's my plan when it comes to economics. I want to hear your side of the true reason. Like, nobody ever wants to work for somebody else, but a lot of people have that big reason of why. So I definitely want to hear yours.
Me, I'd say I'm a pretty independent person. I kind of like just doing my own thing, working on my own terms. I have work jobs. Like over the summer, I worked for the U.S. Census Bureau, and I like that because I was pretty much
What?
yeah, I was the census enumerator, and that's where I learned a lot. Like a lot of stuff I learned now, I learned a lot. I was learning a lot. A lot of times when I'd be riding around, because I was working in Lakewood, I was working all over Jersey, and I'd be listening to empowering videos like Tariq Nasheed, the Black Authority, just like them, and they just have so much knowledge. I'm like, hey, this is amazing. And then I started a lot of the stuff they were talking about, because they're businessmen, they're millionaires, and I'm listening to them. I'm picking up game, and they're paying attention. I start paying attention to my surroundings. I'm like, hey, because I was in a lot of different neighborhoods, and I noticed who's controlling the neighborhoods, who's doing this, who's doing that. I'm like, hey, our community could really use that, and that's very important. So I like that, because in a way, I was pretty much, I get to pick my own time. I got to pick, where I wanted to go and everything. And I like that freedom. I did have a boss. And the reason why I don't want to work for anybody, because I did have one of my supervisors. I had a couple of supervisors while I was working for the census, but then my last one, I didn't like him. And so I'm like, because he was just crazy. Like the other supervisors, they loved me. They were like, oh my God, you get through everything. You're just doing so much. You're always working. He was like complaining. I'm like, oh, but that's another story for a different day. But
Trust me, you'll probably definitely be back on my show. You hold great conversations.
yeah. So, that when I was making, that I'd be making like thousands a week just by that. And it was just amazing. And I'm like, hey, I want to do this for myself, and I want to help out a lot of Black kids, Black people in general. When I want the day I become rich and stuff like that, I never want to forget where I came from. I never want to forget who I am. And a lot of times, a lot of celebrities, a lot of rich people, they kind of forget that. And I get that because they're paid employees, so they're working for other, you know, white people or Asians or Jewish people, and they may feel saying I want to do stuff for Black people. It may hurt, but me, I know I'll never forget. I always want to help my community. Always, I've always been like that, and I've always wanted to change. I just always been like that. Growing up around predominantly, go to school predominantly around white folk. You see a lot of things, and you're different, and you see the chances that they get, and they'll a lot of them are aware of it. They say, hey, why are they always picking out on you, stuff like that. So I'm like, hey, I want to be able to control my own thing where there's no racism, white supremacy, and that's my main goal that I'm fighting for. I may not get it, but I know one day we'll get there. And all I want to do is just inspire kids around the world to break this oppressive system.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with. I not even agree. I'm definitely supporting everything you do. Um,
Thank you.
I like education that you carry is just is something that's hard to come by nowadays because and which is true. Like a lot of people don't put a lot of things in perspective unless it's happening on social media, such as the Black Lives Matter movement. But I don't think a lot of people understood how fast things moved for us. Although some people might think it was a slow pace, but that was probably the fastest anything has ever happened in the Black community that has ever happened before. People have
I
went
agree.
through years trying to get one thing turned around, and we got it done in months. And
Mhm.
I would think that would give us the motivation to keep pushing.
I
Yes,
agree.
sorry, and God rest their souls, we have lost some great people, some great activists, but at the end of the day, that's a sacrifice that people are willing to take, which I am
Right.
grateful for, and that's a sacrifice people know. I love all my people. I don't
Mhm.
care what race you are, which religion, what sex, whatever. You can like whoever you like. I'm gonna still love you out my heart. That's how my heart rolls. But
Mhm.
I'm gonna always be the first person for my culture. And if it comes a time where it's like, okay, it's you either gotta stay in the house or sacrifice yourself for your skin, I'm gonna sacrifice
Right.
myself for my race simply because I know I'm gonna have future nieces and nephews that's gonna have to walk this earth,
Mhm.
and like I said, I'd rather sacrifice myself for my skin color so I know that it's going to be a changed world.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Me, that's what I am for. It's like, hey, I want a better future for the rest of, the little black kids that come after me. I'm like that mentality. Like I give it up props to Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King, Huey Newton, people, Fred Hampton, those people who, they weren't afraid of the system when J. Edgar Hoover was had COINTELPRO, where he was going after all the black activists, and that's where you see a lot of black groups like the Black Panthers getting infiltrated and stuff like that and getting harmed. And that's why a lot of them got killed and stuff like that because of J. Edgar Hoover doing that. And me, uh, you know, I'm ready to, like you said, I'm ready to sacrifice for my race, my culture, because I know that's important. And, once I accepted that, I'm always constantly fighting. And, I just don't have that fear. I got God on my side. So, um, I'm always ready for battle. I'm always ready. And I think a lot of people should have that mentality. That's the African mentality. Like if you look at and this is Black history, and since I was talking about, we could look at the Haitian Revolution. They were not afraid to die. They were ready to just to be free. They did not care. They had that African spirit. It was amazing. If you want to see 1804, that documentary by Tariq Nasheed is amazing. But what they had was they just were so into their culture. They were so into their Africanness, their spirituality, where they did not care if they died. They would risk themselves just for the greater good of Haiti. And that's why, the Haitian Revolution is so amazing. And it's great because that's how you got to be. We can't be cowards because look at what happened in January 6th with the Capitol Hill insurrection. Those people a lot of them were white supremacists, but they were ready to risk their lives for their culture, their race, white people. And whether you disagree or agree with them doing that, you got to respect that because they put it all on the line. People died for that, and you got to respect that. So, and a lot of times with our movements, sometimes our movements are good. Sometimes they get a little like, okay, what is this going? People twerking on cop cars. And how's that going to change? I'm like, okay, you notice they weren't doing that, in their protests. They weren't like, oh, we got to do this. We got to have a dance contest. Oh, we got to perform. They weren't doing that. And, a lot of movements are good. Our movement was good. We got a lot of stuff done and it didn't require a vote. And that's what I want black people to realize. A lot of times they're like, oh, we got to vote. Oh, we got to vote. We got to vote. And then a lot of times, well, what are you voting for? Because the people aren't trying to change anything. You're voting for the same people who weren't doing anything beforehand or caused a lot of these problems. So I'm like, the real power is you. Like you are the law, you are the power. Anybody, you can make change. You can call your prosecutors, you can demand this, you can demand that, and you have the power. You don't have to wait for election. You don't have to wait for a politician. You could do this on your own, like we did in the summer. We got a lot of stuff done. We were getting bills like Ku Klux Klan laws where they can't call you because the cops, based on you being black, we had reparation pushes, even though they were whack. We had white supremacist statues and monuments and memorabilia getting taken down and stuff like that. You saw all that, and we were getting cops convicted and arrested, and that's good. And we did that, and we just got to get focused. If we're focused, we could do anything. You look at the civil rights movement. What happened? Those people were rioters. Anytime something happened to a black person, they would turn up in the cities. They turn up all over, and that's what really, a lot of times they talk about how, all about nonviolence, but a lot of times, it was actual fights that got us, the anti-housing discrimination laws and the civil rights movement. It's because people were turning up in the streets, and people got to realize that that's something that also happened too, because a lot of times they just talk about, oh, these people, black people got beat in the streets, and then and then white people forget. They try to push that narrative, and but really that wasn't really the case, but that's what I gotta say.
I just want to comment on the Capitol thing that you said, and you were like how they pushed forward because they weren't scared or they sacrificed. What I have noticed, because I like to make it clear that, like, since I'm going to school for media communications, like I really like to study inside media. And that doesn't just mean like Instagram or Facebook, like understanding people's reasonings, people's comments, understanding just why people do what they do or what information does people grab from social media. So what I learned just being black, being watching the Black Lives Matter movement, just seeing what's happening on social media and bringing it all down to January 19th said to Capitol. I honestly don't believe that they were brave. I felt like they knew who they were, meaning they knew that they weren't get as hit as
Right.
hard as an African American would.
I
They
agree.
have seen it happen in the past. It's videos that come on social media every day comparing how a white person is treated by a cop compared to a black person. So they grab that information off social media and then they instill the confidence that I'm white, so I won't get hit. And that confidence is true. So I don't think that they were brave. I think that they just proved the theory that we
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, you're definitely right about that. They definitely knew they weren't going to do that. Could you imagine if like a black group, like the Nation of Islam or something, stormed the Capitol like that and was defying the cops and stuff like that? Like, it'd be crazy. Like, every black person in America would be getting targeted. And that's the thing. Even with the Capitol riots, a lot of black groups who were in activist groups were getting targeted. The FBI was going to their house saying, "What do you have to do?" And these people, and it was on video, and they were like, "Well, what were you doing?" And it's like, I wasn't even there. Like, I don't. They're like, "Oh, we don't like Trump or anything. We weren't even there." And I think they're doing that as scare tactics, as like, because they were going to a lot of black activists. They went to like Riza Islam's house also, and I think they're doing that because they're trying to be like, "Hey, black people, don't get any ideas." They're, instead of going after the people who stormed the Capitol, they're a lot of them are getting out. But I know the black guy that was there. He was an immigrant. He was there, and he hasn't got a bail. He hasn't got out for bail. They were like, "Oh, we can't give you a bail," but the people who actually were doing stuff are out right now, and that has to do with a lot with the double standards based on race and stuff like that. So that's how the system, it affects us. You be living in the system, there's always double standards, and they knew that. They definitely knew that. That's the whole point. That's why they did it. That's why I said it was a right. Why a lot of those groups were white supremacist groups, and they know that, obviously, because a lot of them were in the FBI, law enforcement, so they knew. And I kind of think it was an inside job, because a lot of the cops were letting them in. They were like, "Oh, okay," and so it's like,
Not even that. Like, how do you even let them get in like that? Like
they
something,
let them in.
right? Like
Right.
like you would think something like that would be so heavily
Right.
secured. Like it'll be bolts on the door. Like all you have to do is twist a lock, and they can never like push it. Like
Right.
But like I like stuff like that. I don't know.
Mhm.
Sometimes I hate, like, I feel this way, but it's just true. Like stuff like that, I can't dwell on because the truth is right in front of you. Like it's so in front of you. It's nothing to argue about. It's just like what it is, and it's like the world has become so real or so cold-hearted. Like it's nothing's ever really sugar coated anymore. People might like to think it is, but it's not. Like, brothers in blue is a real thing. Everybody has everybody's back, which is a sad thing. That makes
Hmm.
me feel like I remember like learning about the cops. I'd be like, okay, I never want to be in law enforcement simply because how they treat people. And that's sad because the more white people you let in law enforcement, it's the more we're hurting ourselves, which is true. I feel like which is true because being a police officer just gives you a power that a lot of people would never feel and a lot of people don't deserve.
Hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't say, letting more white people in would like affect, as long as they're not white supremacists, they're fine. But if they're white supremacists, yeah. But they're just regular white people, who you just love people and stuff like that. We should be fine. But what happened was, what was I gonna say? About the Capitol. I think that is a good thing that all of this is getting airtime because a lot of times, a lot of us we try and be like, oh, stuff is getting better. Oh, there's no racism. Oh, there's no this. There's no that. A lot of people try and play that game. They want to play that game. They'll protest and they'll be like, oh yeah, we defeated racism. Everything's over. And I think that's the problem. So the one thing I liked about Trump was he was honest and he was open with his a lot of his rhetoric and stuff, and I respect, and that's the thing I respect. I don't like him. I never voted for him. I never want to vote for him or anything. But I respect a lot of the. I respect that because what he did was he opened, like he put like this target on white supremacy and racism, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, this is there and that." I think that's good because a lot of people, black people, were like, we just had Obama. There's no racism. There's no this. There's no that, and that was the mentality for a lot of people. And I think his presidency was good because we got a lot of things done. We were focused on ourselves. Everybody was focused. And that's why with Biden, I was like, I'm a little concerned because a lot of people are rejoicing like they won
Wait,
something.
so you believe that we got a lot of things done in Trump's presidency?
I wouldn't say no, I wouldn't say like I'm not saying that. I'm saying like we were more conscious, like we're fighting. Like
No,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah. I mean, like us, like
oh
as
yeah,
a culture,
yeah,
not
yeah,
like with
yeah.
Trump's help.
Oh yeah,
Wow,
good.
that's a great view because that's honestly so true. But I
Mhm.
never heard it in that view, and I feel like nobody else has. If we
Yeah,
look
because a
at
lot
it at that perspective, I don't think that we will ever be mad at his presidency.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. And a lot of his policies, they didn't really like a lot of people they make it seem like his policies were harming us like only. They go, oh my God, he hates black people and stuff. Wasn't and like some people I read something said a lot of some of his like his immigration policies it helped people in like Chicago because they were having like I guess people who weren't from here they were legally coming or something and it helped black people and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna give him. I don't give him credit for indirectly doing something for us. You need to do something directly for us and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna give anybody indirectly for helping us because a lot of times people say, well, he didn't really do anything, but I don't give you credit for indirectly doing something. So, and I'm sure not gonna give people credit for harming us. Um, so I think yeah, definitely. But a lot of times, black people when they hear the word Trump, it's like they think of the boogeyman or something. They get scared. They just get triggered. I'm like, is he gonna appear or something? And that's the thing. And it's like crazy. Like so, and then when it comes to that, and I'm like, well, what is he doing? He said something. I'm like, well, what he said? And I'm like, okay, like, but what is he doing? Like, I care about what they're doing. I'm like, but they don't have that action when it comes to mainly the Democrat politicians. They'll be writing three strikes and stuff like that. But they're like, oh well, he talks nice, okay, but he's harming you. But and like it doesn't matter if you talk nice. And you see that was the thing with Trump. So it's like Biden. I feel like a lot of us would get lulled to sleep, because they're like, oh, he's nice to us. He says nice things, but that's the thing. But we won't get anything.
Yeah, I don't. I really don't have. I didn't have faith in Biden ever since I've heard that he felt like it was like way before we were born during like
Mhm.
when segregation was alive. He didn't want his kids to go to school with black
Right,
people, and
right.
I feel like a heart like that really doesn't change. Like not and it can change. Don't get me wrong, but you have to acknowledge the fact that you were somebody that was on the white side. Like and the fact that he has yet to acknowledge that he used to feel that way and probably feel that way for a long time, that just doesn't rub me the right way. Like I said, who wouldn't like to be in the White House? So just because he was with Obama doesn't mean like he was rocking with black people. Just because he had the funniest memes for the 8 years that he was in there doesn't mean he was really like that. Nobody, and the thing is, they really never spoke on Obama's and Joe's relationship. Like, Obama be like, okay, you're a great guy, but they never spoke about how in depth they were, and they don't have to. But social media definitely made it seem like they were best friends, and I think that's where people get that misconception from, that he really sticks with the black people. That's where the misconception comes from.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what the thing about. I think we talked about that Tuesday at the meeting. I talked about that. Basically, because you brought it up with Kamala when because Kamala, she brought up, if you remember in the 2019 when they were running for the president election, in the debate, she was like calling Joe Biden segregationist, calling him racist, saying, "Oh, he was sexual assaulting women and stuff like that." She was saying all that, but then all of a sudden, now she's buddy with them and stuff like that. And
Right.
they're playing this con game and stuff like that. And I don't, no politician is for us. That's why when I see one, I'll vote for one and I'll ride for that person whenever I see that. Who's for us, but these politicians, no, they're just not for us. They say like, come on, Kamala, she's like black when she's convenient. She never acknowledged her black side till it was time to run for presidential
Right.
election, because the black vote is the second most votes you could get. So then she starts doing that, and that goes back to the point. A lot of black people are serious about silly things and silly about serious things. I see a lot on social media where they're saying, I'm voting for Kamala because she wears boots. Oh, I'm voting for Kamala because she danced to Cardi B. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's I just don't like that mentality. You're like,
Right.
and then you complain why we always have to protest and do this, we do that for change. It's because people are serious about the silly things and silly about the serious things. Like, we gotta get serious. We gotta get focused. We gotta be demanding tangibles. We gotta have our agenda. Like, hey, we need our problem is economics. We need economics. And then, after we handle our economic problem, everything else is gonna fall play. Medical, education. That's all gonna come just based on fixing our economic problems.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Just I feel like it has to now start with the younger generation, with
Mm-hmm.
us. Like, we can't get too old, Bobby. we gotta start this up. But no, I definitely agree with you.
Right.
It definitely starts with the younger generation. I feel like a lot of people don't look past, and I guess it's just who I am, but I have to look past like the people from the past. Like, I'm not saying forget about it.
Mhm.
I'm not saying don't acknowledge it, but I'm saying we cannot pull others from the past to help us out, because this is our world now. Like, I
Right.
said that to my mom now. Like, you had your generation, you're living your life. Now this is our world that we need
Right.
um to put our best foot forward and keep pushing for change.
Mhm.
Now, I am not as educated. I'm just gonna be as blunt. I'm not as educated as you are in the political world, in the political black world. I am educated when it comes to politics, but and I don't know why. I guess it's just like it has a lot of how you're raised. And when I say that, it doesn't have to do with your parents, because I believe your parents just don't raise you. The outside world raises you as well. So it has to do with how we were raised, and we weren't raised to really look into our culture, because like you say, our culture is really like suppressed, or not our culture, our race is really suppressed to the point where you don't even want to look into it. So, what are some words that you can give our generation? Just because I don't care what nobody say. You literally just gave me confidence to just like to keep pushing forward. So I'm just why I talk, like, even when I talk to anybody, depending on the conversation. So while I'm talking to you, I'm just thinking about, okay, what is the next thing I can do to put on my social media to help my black community? What is the next political thing that's about to come up, so my culture can, or my race can be aware about what's going on? What can I do? So I'm gonna ask you, because I really feel like you people, if anybody had a question about what can they do for their race, you're the one to come to. And I'm not trying to put pressure on your chest. It's just how you come off.
Mhm.
Like, and I'm pretty sure anybody can vouch for me. It's how you come off, how you speak. Like, you come with your facts, you come with your rights, and you come with passion, and just the way you speak about your race is genuine. Like, you're gonna come with the right answer, no bias. So coming to you, what can I do as somebody in my generation, as a millennium, to help my race progress, and not just progress in a small field, just progress in life? What is one step that we can take, or I can take, so we can continue to progress as a black community?
I think that this is, I think that what you should do is, you should just, long as you're on code, you'll be all right. Long as you're looking out for the community, you'll be all right. Long as you're trying to go for black empowerment and have a better situation for you and your people, then you'll be all right. And I talk about staying on code because a lot of, I think that's very important because when a lot of groups, you could put a white person from Australia and a white person from America, put them together in a group of black people, and they'll get on code real quick. They say, hey, we're all into this together. But with us, a lot of times, we'll be like, what happens, like if you look in Africa, a lot of times they have a lot, like other groups are allowed to just come in because there's no code. There's a code between the tribes and stuff like that. But when it's time to unite as everybody, you know, they're all divided on this, they're all divided on that. And other groups could come in, like the China's coming in now. And a lot of people are mad about that because they're just coming in, but the other groups are so divided. It's easy to, sadly just, you know, have them, kind of control some things. But I say what you should do is, you should always be aware of the people in power. What are they going to do for you? Are they for you? Are they against you? I think that's very important. I also think it's very important to just research and educate yourself. And once you do that, you're going to be able to change the way you think, the way you act, and just be conscious. Like just little things, like even you could get invested in the stock market, build your credit, stuff like that. That's what I do. Just so when I'm older and it's time for me to really empower my people and affect more people, I'll be set because I'm starting now. I'm doing these things. I'm in school. I'm focused on that. About to transfer. So, just educate yourself. Just empower yourself. Learn as much as you can. And once you do that, be like that. You'll be influencing millions. And that's what Black
You're
empowerment is
definitely
about.
influencing. I really feel like you are like you definitely have influenced me just throughout like this hour conversation. It's supposed to be a 30 minutes, but I'm sorry, Bobby. Like you're just coming off of like great conversation. And I'm like, hopefully I'm not taking up his time. At the same time, like I kind of don't want this to end because you're really coming off of great facts.
Yeah, you're not taking up any time. This is really fun. I love talking about this thing. So I'm just glad to be here, and I'm glad you're so open about with this conversation. Because a lot of times, some people, I'll try and tell them, I'm like, hey, like, I'll try and educate some people, and like even in my family, and then they'll get kind of mad. It's because like a cognitive dissonance. I'm like, hey, we're harmed because of this, and they're like, no, that's not true. That's not true or something. They'll just deny facts. And a lot of times, like if I talk about a politician who they may have loved, and I'm saying, well, but they're harming us or something, they're like, no, they'll just have cognitive dissonance and kind of attack me. And I'm like, well, I'm giving you facts, I'm giving you proof, and they're just going off a belief. And I think a lot of times, sometimes people they need to stop judging off emotion and judge off facts. And then a lot of things would change once that happens.
That's true. And I really feel like and this is what I like. I hate it, but I love it. And this is what makes me just so intrigued about social media and media communication and mass communication because I feel like social media really drives the emotional aspects of somebody's decision, which is it pisses me off because I feel like social media is the reason why a lot of people cannot think for themselves. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have so many comments and implications of a story that you never know which one is true unless it sounds true enough to you, which is just so annoying to me. But I really definitely understand where you're coming from when you say like people really judge off of their emotions instead of facts. And then social media plays in the fact thing as well because they hide the facts so well that you don't even know which one is real as well.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wanted to speak about because I know it is kind of dragging, but like I said, I love the conversation. Like, why do I podcast if I don't? Um, do you have, and this is not even speaking on the African American culture or community or race. This is speaking about white skin plus versus brown skin. And I don't, at the end of the day, everybody know I'm a blunt person, so I care how everybody feels, but at the same time, this is a conversation that I want to have. Do you see any comparison of how it used to be in the past, like in the early past when it was slavery to now when it comes to white and brown skin? Like, do you see where I'm coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
I do see a lot, but I'm gonna let you go first.
Are you like asking like do you see any like racial progress or anything? Is that what you're trying to get at? Or
I'm asking like, so for example, I watch, like I said, like I'm a documentary lover, and not even that. I have, I'm not saying like I was grateful enough, but I've seen people that have minorities as their household help or as their help as in general. And not even that, like when you see, like I see a lot of social media videos of minorities or black people doing like ship it or what's that, Instacart, where they go grocery shopping. And to me, when I see how they are treated compared to how slaves was treated in the early past, I don't really see a difference. I see the difference in vocabulary. Maybe you don't speak to them as harsh as slaves was, but I don't really see a difference in progress in that. I feel like a lot of people that, and I'm sorry, like I love all my people, but it's a lot of sometimes like the white community, they feel like they are so on this pedestal that they can still treat somebody as they owe them something or they have to work for them, if that makes sense.
yeah, that makes sense. And that's what I thought you were getting at, actually. And yeah, I definitely agree. I say there's, I guess, the only real progress that we made like after slavery is like kind of social, but even in a way, not really. But
Mhm.
I'd say, yeah, like, but when it comes to everything else, we really are kind of like the same. Like our economic standpoint is the same pretty much from like the 1800s, right after we were freed and stuff like that. And when you still look at a lot of things, we're still affected the most. And it's because of that system. It's because we were slaves. It's because of white supremacy. And I say, once we dismantle that, that's when really I believe all the change is gonna happen. But yeah, I definitely agree. Um, you know, people. There's evil people out there who are mistreating people based on their skin, and so I don't like, and I never like the term where, oh, race is getting better, racism is getting better, when if it's still there, it's still bad. If we're still that's why I never like the term, oh, racism was a past thing. Like, no, it's not. There's, I just don't like, and I don't like that, and I really don't like when black people say that stuff. I'm like, come on, man. If a police officer is right behind you getting pulled over, I tell you, any person who hates being black or something like that, even them, they'll start being the most pro-black person than like saying, at the police. I'm
That's
telling you.
a fact, though. That's a fact.
I'm telling you, yeah, and that's why it's like interesting because even like sellouts and stuff like that, people were talking about, oh, black people, they deserve it, like the police officer shooting, oh, they shouldn't have resist, and then some of them they got killed by the police. They got killed by the police. I know one case where one guy, he was always talking about, what about black on black crime? Oh, this person deserved to die, and stuff like that, and then he died, and then he got involved with the police, and a lot of times with the police, like me, how I am, people need to stop being all like kind of like rowdy and rowdy. You're like, in a way, I think of it as like anytime I'm like talking, I'm pulled over. Like, hey, I'm in a prisoner of war. I'm not gonna do anything where I'll put my life at harm's risk. Try and prevent that. And I think that's very important because a lot of times some people, and it's like the people who like, you know, they're not even they won't even call themselves pro-black. They're like whatever, and they get rowdy with the police. I know my rights. I know my rights. And a lot of times that instigates a lot of things when that happens. Like because they're saying, oh, now you're resisting and stuff like that. And that's how they look at it. These cops, they look at it. So I think it's important to realize that race relations really haven't changed.
Right. And now that you race relations, there you go. Now the whole, not the whole conversation, but when we speak about race and between black and white, I feel like that really sums up the beginning question or the beginning subject of that we spoke about, of what can we do to help ourselves. And I really feel like it's race relations as well. I feel like, and I used to be like this, so maybe this is why I'm saying this, but I feel like I used to be like, well, white people need to educate themselves on the black community, this and the third. But I had to realize that they are so ignorant to the facts of our culture and who we are, that now we have to really educate them. And sometimes it's like, I used to feel like, okay, it's like bowing down to them. And it's like I just had to put in a different perspective, as I feel like I have to educate the white community of who I am so they can understand how to treat us, because the shit has been going on for so long that I feel like that they are so used to how things are going that they can't even change. And I'm the type of person that do try to look on both sides. And I'm not saying what they do is great, and I'm not trying to justify anything a white person does, but I feel like we sometimes, as a Black community, we have to look at the fact that they are ignorant to how to treat us, and they have no other way but how they were taught from their family and their generation. So I feel like we are living in a time now where, as Black people, we have to educate the white people instead of expecting them to educate themselves.
You brought up a good point, and because I used to think that, but then I listened to this guy Neely Fuller, and he was talking about they know, like, white people. I don't like to say white people because most white people, they know racism, they know it's wrong and stuff like that. That's why I say white supremacists, because those are mainly the people who are really trying to keep this going. And so them, they know about racism. They created racism. So when people say they try and educate, they know this stuff. They know all this stuff. They know everything because anytime something happens, they'll be the first person to talk about, oh, this black people doing this, oh, black people are killing this. They know because they're the ones that are perpetuating all of this stuff. They're presenting all this propaganda, so they know about racism. They just want to. Some people, they just want to maintain this. And when they say, I like to say they play dumb. A lot of times they try and play dumb and say, "Oh, I don't know," like because I've talked to a lot of like white supremacists, and they always try and play dumb, and they want you to play dumb along with it. If they say there's no racism, they want you to say it and stuff like that. They know the racism exists. Why? Because they're the ones perpetuating it. They're the ones doing it. So that's the thing, saying educating them. They're all, with white people, like, they're all educated. They're educated about every single thing else, but how you not educated about racism? They know.
Okay,
They
I like
know. They're
that
taught
point.
on
You're
that.
right.
Yeah, a lot of them, they play dumb to play it off or something like that. They just try. That's the thing. A lot of times they play dumb and they want you just to play dumb along with them. They know, like, they're just playing it off to make it seem like, that there's nothing that, that's why I don't like the diversity training and stuff like that, the police reform and stuff like that. Like, how do you reform a white supremacist who hates your guts and stuff like that?
You're
Like, how do you
right.
do that?
I
How do you,
never
how
knew
do
that.
you do that? You know what I mean? Like, how do you do that? Like, and a lot of the times they're doing stuff, and they'll have complaints on, they're doing this to black people, oh, they're doing this. Like, even Derek Chauvin, who killed George Floyd, he had complaints on race, like dozens and dozens, yet nobody does anything. They know about racism. They know about this. That's why they do it. If they didn't know about racism, they wouldn't be racist.
Right. Which is, yeah, I definitely agree on your point. I definitely agree where you're coming from. And I've been meaning to tell you because you had brought up Newton. He started the Black Panther movement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's who you remind me of. That's who you remind me of. Like, not even like today, like, just because like I wasn't showing my face on camera, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I was on mute most of the time on Tuesday, I want to let you know I was really into the conversation, and people in the office that where I work at was into the conversation as well.
Awesome.
And like I had it on blast, so I'm pretty sure people, like, we were helping heard it too. But and to be honest, I wanted them to hear, especially because it was about our culture, and I work around a lot of white people, so, and you guys were spitting facts, so I definitely wanted, it was meant to be turned up loud, like, I'm not even gonna lie. But no, that's who you remind me of. And when I was in Brookdale with you were definitely a hard worker. I definitely didn't see this side of you, but I definitely seen that you had great potential, and you definitely was genuine in whatever you did. But Tuesday really brought out a different light in you. And I definitely appreciate it 100% because I definitely wish everybody was like this, and including myself. Like, I am pro black, but I'm not like pro black. Like, I'm gonna fight, but I just wish, and it's crazy, and people are like, okay, well, you can just do it, and sometimes like you really can't. You really need that motivational person, and like I said, that's what my podcast is behind. I interview motivational people to motivate one person or 1,000 or even just myself, but you are definitely that person, and I appreciate it 100%. You, this whole conversation, we've been on here for like an hour and 10 minutes now, and the whole time you really had me think about what can I do next, what can I use my platform for. Every day I'm trying to figure out what is the big idea, and my friends are helping me create a brand of figuring out who I am or what I want to do. And I always knew that I wanted to help who I was, meaning the black community. And like I said, and I'm telling you this because, not to be repetitive, but I just wanted to get it through people's head. I'm not saying this because you're my show. I'm not saying this to make you feel good. I'm telling you the truth when I say what I say out my mouth. And you have definitely gave me a new vision behind my brand. Like I know I want to help the Black community when I grow up. I told you that's what I want to do with other businesses. I told you how I felt about the Black community compared to others. Like that didn't come from you, but the drive that you have now given me to put my thoughts and my dream forward has come from you. So I'm definitely going to give you that applaud because how old are you?
I'm 19.
Oh, what? No way! Y'all thinking like you're 21 or something. See, that's crazy. Like this younger generation is crazy. Like you're really doing it, Bobby. We're getting down to the open conversation, which is our last conversation of the show. But I definitely have to applaud you because we need more Black men like you, honestly. And for you to just to be 19 and you're carrying yourself like you're 26 is ridiculous. You
Thank
are
you.
very impressive for your age, for what you do, and I'm probably going to say this at the end of the show, but I'm going to tell you now. I really do look forward of working with you when it comes to our culture and our race. Just like everybody knows, and even like the background people that help me, my podcast is my dream. It's something I want to make into my career. So to know that I'm interviewing people as amazing as you just makes me feel great. And it's like, I'm not even lying. It really makes me feel good about myself. It makes me want to be greater than what I am today. It makes me want to be a better person tomorrow because I can see that I'm not the only one trying to strive for a better future. So it really makes me feel great. So yeah, like you're awesome, and
Thank you. I
I really
appreciate it.
can't wait to see what you do in the future. Like I really cannot wait because I know it's going to be nothing but the best, like nothing but the best. And to know that you're doing it off of your passion. That's the crazy thing. A lot of people do things off of their parents' passion or somebody else's thought. You're doing this off your own passion. Nobody told you that you had to get into your culture. You could have been like the rest of the Black men and been around here, playing video games and just caring about yourself, but you care about your community, which is something that something that we don't get often, that we get once in a while from somebody. So yeah, like I'm amazed. Like I'm out of words. It's just like really no words to really describe like the height that you have taken since I met you to now. Like,
Mm.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Of course.
I'm glad, just to hear that. It means like I'm just glad that what I'm doing is helping you in helping you go forward. I just think because that's really what I want to do. Like I don't do it for me, I want to inform people all over and help them. So, and I love your podcast. I love the questions. I love your interviewing, and I know you're gonna go far. This is just amazing. I knew like when you were asking the questions at BSU, I was like, oh man, we're gonna have a good time over here. Like
Really?
I
Thank
just knew we
you.
were gonna connect. So it was amazing. I was so excited. So yeah, I just want to thank you for allowing me on the platform.
Of course. Well, thank you for coming. Like honestly, it's always a blessing whenever people come on. Definitely, because you had to make time for me, so I definitely appreciate that. So yeah, definitely back to you. So we're really about to get into this open conversation. The open conversation I want to have. The questions I'm asking you. I'm gonna be honest. I really never asked anybody else because I really felt like nobody was ever mature enough to have conversations like we're having now, and that's another reason why I don't want to stop because I feel like I really won't find somebody to be able that's as educated. Well, let me not diminish anybody, but the people I know, I don't feel like I would have found anybody as educated or as driven or like as determined and open to answer any question without feeling like, oh, this is going to mess up my life. Because I had people I wanted to come on and speak about politics, and they were so worried about if somebody they know will see this, it will mess up their
Right.
their life. But hopefully that don't scare you now. But no, I appreciate you coming on and be able to answer any questions with no hesitation. So I'm going to jump into the open conversation. I just want to speak about the modern day education on how to respect and approach an African American, and also the Black love and respecting a queen and a king. Now, the reason why I said I picked queen first, not
Mhm.
because my nickname is Queen L, but because a lot right now on the social media, and I'm not speaking on just like Meg the Stallion because
Mhm.
it was something that recently happened with one of the football players,
Mhm.
but not respecting a queen. Like I feel like a lot of men get more so we're not speaking when it comes to race, when it comes to a Black man and the cops. We're talking about us as a whole. I really feel like a lot of Black men get a lot of respect out of African American woman, then African woman is returned from a king, if that makes sense. So just tell me your thoughts on just kings and
Yeah.
queens as a whole.
Um, I would kind in a way, I see where you're coming from, and in a way, I kind of like because like when you look at like the politicians, how they're trying to do, I say, we deserve to be. It needs to be us, kings and queens together, because what they're doing is like I see in the narratives, they're trying to push like they're doing like black girl magic, they're doing black girls the backbone of Democrats and stuff like that, and it's like, you know, where's the black man at? It's like, oh, the black men are like, you got a lot of these puppets that are coming out saying, oh, black men are the white men of the black society and stuff like that. They target us. But you're right. But in a way, there's always you're right, definitely, because when you looked at Breonna Taylor, what happened and stuff, and how everybody else was getting justice. But then when you look at like the social aspect, it's like how are black men protecting when they always talking about black men are this, they're always demonizing us and crazy stuff. That's the thing, because like, and we'll even have black women talking about black men, oh, black men this, black men and that, and that's the thing. Like, and a lot of times, like with Tory Lanez, I'm like, yeah, he's a black man, but like he's like different, like he's like Canadian, and like a lot of, but that's like the cultural thing. That's like us, that's why it's like confusing because like Black American. That's why I say foundational Black American. So oh yeah, we're Black Americans, but then a lot of times people just make Black synonymous with like African American. So it's all African American men, but he's Canadian. Like he's from Caribbean. Like that's his thing. And a lot of times they're saying, "Oh, Black Americans." He's not even Black American though. And a lot of people are like saying that. I'm like, okay, like they're trying to make it a thing. That's the only thing where I would say I would disagree on with the Black men are more respected of that. Like in that aspect, because when you look at that, they're always like demonizing us. They're saying, "Oh, what's wrong with the black man? What's for doing that?" The propaganda. And you look at the mass incarceration, it's us black men that are being targeted, stuff like that. All kinds of that. And the thing about that is, I just don't like the gender war, and I want us to all come together. And we got a lot of riders, and we got a lot of Black sisters who are riders and who are like, oh, they're not with that gender war and nonsense and stuff like that, where they try to pit, the black man and the black woman. That's what they want, and that's what they do. They always do that. They'll put, like, if you look at movies, like I know in the Harriet Tubman movie with like Cynthia Erivo, why a lot of foundational Black Americans didn't like the movie, because, and we kind of protested it. One, because Cynthia Erivo, she was saying stuff about Black Americans, like she was very saying like anti stuff. But what happened in the movie was they were portraying this narrative as her making her Harriet Tubman very submissive, and she needed white approval and stuff like that. And basically they were trying to portray the black man as bad, because in the end of the movie, like Harriet Tubman killed a black man, and this was fictional. That's the thing. They put all this propaganda where the black man is bad, the black man is evil, and they kind of did that with Color Purple to some extent. Some people, because I remember seeing videos and people were saying, "Oh, this is very anti-black men," because they made all the black men look bad. But
Every movie.
yeah, in every movie. So I'd say to that extent, yeah, but yeah, the black woman does get this right. We all do, because we're black. And to some extent, sometimes they try and play this black girl magic stuff. And I don't, in a way, I kind of don't like it, because it kind of makes you guys the target in some ways. It's like when you say magic, it's like you're not human. It's like, oh, you're like some supernatural thing, so they can mistreat you, and because you're magic and stuff like that. Because I see a lot of times with when the Proud Boys were protesting, a lot of black women were the targets, and they were the target. But yet you don't see the media saying, "Oh, these white supremacists are coming after black women." It's always, every time like a black man does something, it's like then they want to portray the, oh, black men are bad, black women are queens. Because look at the Chad Wheeler. Nobody was talking about how he did that. And to me, it looked like a white supremacist attack, because she was making her bow down and stuff like that. If you know about that, a lot of these people, like when they, swirl and stuff like that, a lot of these girls, they always with, if they were a white supremacist, they had bow down like a slave, and they do slave play and stuff like that. I've heard stories about that. And I don't like that. That's just terrifying. And that he almost killed her.
Yeah.
If the cops didn't get there, he almost killed her and stuff like that. And notice
No arrest.
no arrest, and they tackled him and stuff. He was resisting, no shots fired. And that just proves the um double standards in race and stuff like that. So that's the thing about when you say black kings and queens and stuff like that. Like, yeah, we're all targeted based on black. It's not because of gender. We're all targeted black. And what we got to do is we got to acknowledge these things that the media will portray and try and get us to divide and be saying, you know, hey, I'll be like, hey, the black woman's gonna get more attention, and you'll be like, hey, the black man is gonna get more attention. But we got to realize these things, that these are propaganda and tools of white supremacy to get us to start dividing by gender when we really are together and we support each other. Like me, I support the black woman, and so yeah, that's all I gotta say.
So that was speaking on the Black Queens and Kings when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to I guess the social view, but I definitely want to speak inside inside the house when it comes to just how we view each other because this is what had me confused for a few years, and people don't know like how like a lot of things can be like psychological. Like I don't want to sound like crazy, but like how it could be like psychological to a woman or a man. But so like, for example, I went to Wall, as I explained, called White Wall. It was a handful of us. Like you could say it was about like four of us in my grade that was black, including me. Now, the black boys would always be on the white girls and never even look twice to at a black girl. So that just diminishes a queen's, feeling. So that's where I'm trying to figure out if we're all trying to and I'm not saying okay, you gotta love all your black girls and just your black girls, but what would you say, speaking to the black men, and for you to say like you love all your black women, what knowledge would you give to them to explain to them like you don't have to accept them to date them, but you still have to understand that we are all brothers and sisters in some type of way. So even if I didn't want to date you, I'm not going to be like, oh, I don't want to date you because you're ugly. I'm going to be
Right.
like, you're a very handsome guy. It's just, I feel like we just got to be friends, So,
Mm-hmm.
like, as a black man, how would you speak to your black men on how to represent a queen without feeling like you have to make her feel like you emotional? Like,
Right, right,
I don't know if that makes sense.
right. And that goes back to the point where the propaganda and how, being in the system, this white supremacy is like where white is portrayed as good and then black is portrayed as evil and stuff like that. That goes, and I realized that too in high school. And high school, I picked that up because, like you said, even at Wall, they would say, oh, the white girls are this, the white girls are like on a pedestal and stuff like that. And I'd say that's because who we're around. We're all around, white people and stuff like that. So, they're like saying, hey, the black women, they're this, they're that, and stuff like that. And that gets into the mindset of black boys, sadly. And, and I realized like, a lot of my black friends would do that. They would be like they'd be talking down a black woman in like a bit. And I'm like, whoa, chill. And then I tell them like, hey, I don't play that. And that's the thing. And because of that, it's just what they're fed. Because in the media, black women will be portrayed as this, as that. They'll put like some like they won't put like our best looking people. They'll put somebody funny or something, and then kind of embarrass them, and it's sad.
Light
And
skinned girl.
yeah, yeah, and they'll do little stuff like that. They'll put a face like they'll put a black woman who and next around like the most beautiful people or something, and then demonize her and stuff like that. That goes back to the psychological, as you were saying. And that's why I feel a lot of people and a lot of black men and black women will will have self-hate between the community and say, hey, I want to date out or something like that, because all the propaganda that's being displayed.
Yeah, and that's like something like I struggled with. I like go into like school and like I explain my situation. Like it really made me like for a few years, like I just be like, you know what, I don't want to date a black man because I feel like even if they want me, they won't respect me as much as they would respect somebody else with a lighter skin. And that also brought me to the point where in the summer, like I used to like in the summer, I would put like coconut oil on me and I would lay down and tan because I wanted to be able, and it's like a truth, and I do it every summer. I want to show African American women like no matter how dark your skin is, like you're still beautiful. Like
Right,
I love myself no matter how dark I am in the summer or how light I get in the winter. Like it's baffling to me how people feel about their color, and that brings me back to black magic. I understand what you're saying, like it's a mythical thing, but from a woman's point of view, when Black Girls Magic came out, that just gave me a whole new perspective on a black woman. It made me feel like that we are one of a kind, that we are different, that we possess traits that a lot of other racial women of other cultural women don't possess. Like we are hypnotizing, you can say. So I guess you could say a mythical thing, like once you go black, you never go back. Like that's what it made me feel like. So it definitely gave me a newfound confidence of being black when Black Girl Magic came out. So I could definitely feel like I can see where you're coming from when you say like the mythical thing, because it definitely showed a sense of Black girls can be like hypnotizing, where once you're with them, like you never want to go anywhere else. They're so caring, loving, and things like that. So
Yeah, but what you said about that, I wasn't like saying. I thought it was. I love the term. I'm just saying like a lot of times like black folk, they try and make us like feel as they do stuff like that. They'll say magic and stuff like that. So when I say that, I'm like, hey, because you're not saying Black Girl Magic with Chad Wheeler. Nobody's saying that, and that's it's like the media. They're saying, oh, Black Girl's Magic. They'll say that when it comes to doing like something, but when it comes to when it's really time to be behind that, they don't do that. And I feel that's why I don't like that's why I don't like it, because I'm like, well, okay, why is the media not saying this for them? They'll say it when you for the presidential election after you vote Democrat. They'll say that, but when you need it and stuff like that, they're not gonna say it. That's why I said that, because a lot of times the media, they try and portray us as like mythological creatures, so they can harm us because, hey, like even in the medical field, they say, hey, Black Americans, they got thick skin or something like that. We don't have to give them medicine and stuff like that. That's what I see when they see that. So I feel like that's just justification to harm us when they say magic and stuff like that. Oh, you're this, when that's really not true. So they're not gonna give you medicine and stuff like that. And that's where I relate it back to. I'm not saying like it's bad. Like I love the term Black Girl Magic. I'm just saying like that's how in a way, that's how I see like the media using it and like that to say, oh, Black Girl Magic, when you're gender warring or something, oh, when you're doing this for them, but then when they're harming you, they're silent. They're like, oh, there's no Black Girl Magic or something, and you're like, okay, that's why I'm just going at like the tools. Like I love the term. I love the term. I'm just saying like sometimes I just see people propagandizing it into something crazy, and it makes other people think that. They're saying, well, the Black Girl's Magic, I could do this term, and then something like that, and then like no, that's how some people see it, and I realized that. I picked that up. I'm like, okay, so that's fine.
no, I understand. I did not take it as offense.
Oh,
And
okay.
honestly, any question you made, even if it was like, or anything that you said, even if it was a disagreement, I never take it as offense. I'm the type of person, I will always respect what you say, how you feel, or even what you do, because I want the same in return.
Right.
Like, I can never compromise or belittle somebody else's thoughts or feelings. That's just not who I am. So you can say whatever you want, and I would be like, respect it. It's like
Right.
respect it, because that's who you are.
Mhm.
So down to the last question, Bobby, I got to get you back on this podcast. I'm so mad. This is the last
Definitely.
question.
Definitely.
So down to the last question. So how would you, or what would you identify as the modern day respect or approach when it comes to an African American? Like for me, like I was speaking on Tuesday, when it comes to females, like I hate when somebody else from a different race be like, oh, I never been with a Black girl. Like I hate that. Like I'm not a color, I'm a race, I'm African American. That's how you approach me. Like, you don't approach me and saying, you don't touch my hair, be like, oh, so what are these? That offends me. I remember the other day I went to work, and I came in like with my weave, whatever, and they were like, oh, so what happened to your dreads? And that offends me, because those weren't dreads, those were braids. And although dreads are gorgeous, dreads and braids are two different things, because dreads are nappy and braids are, slick and neat. So now you're trying to not only disrespect me, you're disrespecting my culture and how we do our hair. So yeah, and I hate when people be like, oh, so is this weave? Is this yours? I hate that. I remember when in high school, it might be funny now, like it doesn't hurt me, but I remember in high school, I was trying to educate, the white people on the hairstyles. And they were asking, like, where does your hair come from? And depending on what hair you buy, some of it is literally horsehair, and your braids are horsehair, like, and so I was just letting know, like, my braids into my hair is weave, and it's generated from horses. And that became the joke of the month, and that belittled me, because I thought I'm helping you educate yourself to make me feel better, and now you just made a joke out of my culture. So yeah.
Yeah, that's very good points. And I remember, because we were talking about, I don't like fetishizing like relationships when you say like, oh, I haven't been with a black girl, I want to do that, because it's like what they used to do in back in slavery days. There would be slave owners. They would have children with the black woman, and they would have children, and black guys would have children with the white woman and stuff like that. But what happened was it was fetishized, and I don't like that. We're saying, oh, I only want to do it because it's in a way it's kind of like a, it's like in a way like it's a lusting thing. It's not a loving perspective, and that's why I don't like that. Because if you love somebody, you should love them, not because of their skin color, or I'm loving them because they look like this, or because of their hair and stuff like that. You should love them based on the fact that you love them. And when you start getting to a point where you're saying, I love this person because they're white, or I love this person because they're black, or some, or not even love, you lust for them. You think, I just want to have sex with these type of people, and that's what people do. There's like you could look this up, like where there's sex tourism in Africa, where a lot of like white women go to Africa just to have sex with black women, black men, my bad. And it's not because they love, it's not because they love them. It's because of lust. It's like they're getting used, and that in a way that's like, okay, that's kind of crazy. That's crazy because they're using them. We're not sex items. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I see that, and I definitely agree with you. When it comes to the hair and stuff like that. But I think it's important. Brace your Africanness, brace your blackness, like in the hair and stuff like that. That's why I love seeing the black women with they're different types of hair, and like they're African, yeah, like the African stuff. And I love that because a lot of times, I think we talked about that, they try and Europeanize a lot of hairstyles. If you look back then, a lot of things were European. Even when black guys had hair, like you look at like Prince and stuff like that, it was like the crazy hair. It wasn't like the full, like, so it was like kind of like Europeanized, Beanized. And that's what I like now, how, we're kind of Africanizing our looks and stuff like that. I think that's a very good thing. And, people shouldn't, and people should be very conscious about that stuff. The racial microaggressions that they say, trying to touch people's hairs and stuff like that. Like we're just objects, like we're people.
Right.
You're not going to do that with anybody else. So don't do that with us,
Right.
And yeah, that's how I feel.
Speaking on like the culture and the hair thing, it just made me think of this one post I seen on Instagram, and I just want your thought on it. So it was like we're all the same race. The reason why we're different colors is because how far we live from the equator. Is
Mm-hmm.
that something, do you believe that, or do you really believe like we're all different races? Because obviously, so yeah, do you believe the post, or obviously do you think that's like a biased post to
Um,
uneducate people?
I mean, it's in a way, it's kind of both. In a way, it's both because race is like was created basically, and it depends like what race you're talking about. Like here in America, race was like created. They did that like strategically. But then I believe there was race before that, like in other places, but it wasn't. Race is kind of different. It depends how you talk about. But when you're talking about like the physiological like traits and stuff like that, like skin color, yeah, it does. Basically how, because I believe like black men, like black people were the original people, and then everybody, and then all the other colors came out, based on them moving around. So I definitely agree with that too. But when it comes to when I think of like race, I'm thinking of like the man-made like structure. I'm thinking of like the class race. That's what I'm thinking of. So I say, we were just saying we're all humans. Like, yeah, yeah, that's pretty good. But we're not treated that way. And you say we're all humans. Like when it comes to race, saying we're all the same race. I think I don't like that. I don't like the term that we're all one race, because that's what they tell us. And they say
Yeah.
people say Black Lives Matter, and they say, well, we're all one race. All lives matter, stuff like that. They say that, but they can't say Black Lives Matter, stuff like that. That's the thing. That's when I see the we're all one race. I kind of think to that. I'm like, okay, like why, like, because us as African Americans, as foundational Black Americans, whatever you want to say, we never had that identity where other communities, they could come in and they could appreciate their ethnicity and stuff like that. We never had that because we never knew really where our roots came from and stuff like that. We were only known as race. It was just we were only knew we were Black, and that was pretty much it. So we take pride in that. Take pride in that. While white races, they could talk about, oh, I'm Irish, I'm this, I'm that. We couldn't really do that unless, like me, unless we had immigrant parents maybe or something who were from somewhere else. So a lot of times we had to recognize ourselves as Black and stuff like that. And some people, they get mad, something like that. But that's the only that's really what we were known for. We're just Black. We're Black Americans, and that's all we knew. So when they say a lot of times when we acknowledge that, they're saying, well, we're all the same race, human race, and stuff like that. So I don't like that because I think it's like just propagandized. And I know a lot of white, racist people say that. So
Right.
that's the thing.
Agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you saying. That's why I wanted your thought because some people do believe that and try to make an argument off of that, but
Mm-hmm.
then they don't put in this perspective of okay, my skin color might be determined by how far I am from the equator, but then you have to put in my hair,
Mm-hmm.
you have to put in like all my other aspects that I have that you might not have in your race. So yeah, so I definitely agree with you saying. I have one more question for you, but I totally forgot. But I guess that's just a sign for me that I just need to hurry up and wrap it up. There, I have one more question. Oh, I do. Okay, I swear this is the last question. This is the last
Oh,
question. But so what is your and I like I said, I never the questions I'm asking you might not pertain around the topic we were supposed to talk about today, but I love
right.
how you just come out with your answer, so I might as well just throw it at you.
Mm-hmm.
What is your thoughts when they try to compare just African Americans to the evolution of apes?
That is crazy, and it's kind of it's definitely crazy. Because, and I'm not gonna and like I know some things they'll try and say. A lot of historians will try to say, well, this group comes from apes, and then they'll say, oh, well, whites come from apes. So I don't want to get that because like I don't really know about it, but I
I
hear,
never heard that side. That's why I'm asking you. Oh,
yeah,
I
yeah.
always heard that black people come from apes, and I'm like, oh, how, like, what about the other cultures? Like, apes are very intelligent people.
But I don't, but that doesn't make any sense because, black people were the original, like black skinned Africans. That's where humans came from. They were black and stuff like that. So to say, we came from apes, or something like that, that's like absurd. That's crazy because everybody else came from like Africa and black. So that's kind of, so like, I don't really believe that. Like, we didn't come from no apes. So that's crazy. That was a lot of that stuff was, white supremacist propaganda, especially back then. Back then they do that. They were saying, you know, they do that to make us seem inferior and stuff like that. They did it with other racial groups. They try to do that with other them too and say, oh, white supremacy, we're superior, we're this, we're that. And that's what I think of that because we didn't come from no apes. That's insane, and that's propaganda. It's so dumb. Like when I hear that, it's like, oh man.
We're back at that again.
Yeah, right.
No, but yeah, to wrap up the conversation, I really hope one day in the future I do see like Americans just come
Mhm.
together to celebrate all cultures. Like I feel like the Indian culture is beautiful, the Haitian culture is gorgeous, the Jamaican culture is something different. I feel like that everybody would love, like um, it, I feel like Americans, just the United States, has the biggest part to play than any other country because we accept everybody. Not when I say accept, I don't mean like
Yeah,
as we wish, but like everybody lives here. So
right.
yeah, just that's what my one hope and dream is when it comes
Yeah.
to races. When it comes to the black community, I just really pray that we prosper to the best that we can be. Like we will have our Wall Street back, we will have our banks back, we will have the life as we deserve back because another thing that I used that I not used to that I always say is there is no America without the black people because we
Yeah.
built it.
You built it.
And like
Hmm.
I'm saying, I'm like, just because I'm making this comment, I don't want anybody to feel like I'm diminishing their culture, their race. It's just
Hmm.
what I know, what I learned, and what I've seen. Like I've seen history teachers try to belittle the African American work. But like, once when you know who you are, like you see the difference of they're just, jealous. But to end off a great conversation, Bobby, I need you to drop some insight or some social media pages for us where we can educate ourselves on the black community, some great movies that people can access on Netflix, something that we all have. I definitely want people to start getting insight on African American history and just not in February.
Yep. Awesome. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm not really a big social media guy like right now.
That's a great
You know,
thing
I,
for me.
yeah. So, but I will be soon, probably when I transfer stuff like that. But my social media is Bobby Caze _ and my Snapchat is Bobby Caze. And you could find me talking about Black history and Black empowerment, Black excellence at Black Student Union Brookdale. We meet Tuesdays at 11:45 to like 1:15. Great discussions there. So if you ever like look up the BSU Brookdale, you'll find the Instagram, you'll find our links and stuff like that. Um, and a lot of things that I watch also is I watch the new black media as they call themselves. So I watch like Tariq Nasheed, The Black Authority, Professor Black Truth, Boyce Watkins, Dr. Boyce Watkins, Vicky Dillard. I watch a lot of stuff like that, and then I'm also reading too. I don't just watch; I also read a lot of articles from a lot of reliable sources, and that's where get a lot of my information. So I love to back up my facts and information, and I love doing that. And then basically I really started doing this heavy like in the summer, like when I started working, I was like, I really started doing this heavy. I'm like, hey, this is so interesting, so interesting, because I was gonna be BSU president. So I'm like, hey, I want to be informed. I want to be the smartest man in the room for all this stuff.
God, you overachieved that. I'm sorry, you didn't overachieve that.
So it's just so interesting, and I feel, and a lot of that stuff, I don't just like want to learn history. I want to learn history to not just for like just to know it. I want to use it. So for one, if somebody tries to say like lies, I know I could debate them and debunk their lies. And also I want to learn from history and say, what did they do wrong where I can do this better? When I look at Black Wall Street, I'm like, what did they do wrong? It's like they didn't have a gun store, they didn't have protection and stuff like that. So I see that if I ever do that, we gotta have a defense, we gotta have this, we gotta have that. And so that's why I like to look at historical perspectives and movies also. If Hidden Colors is great documentary film series by Tariq Nasheed. Um, he did the 1804 Haitian Revolution documentary, which is amazing. And every black person should be watching these films. It's amazing. Every person should be watching it. They're amazing. And the Black Authority, Jason Black, he does films. His films are amazing. Black Channel Films are amazing. These people are very amazing people, and these people are like icons to me. They're like the modern day, like Dr. Martin Luther Kings and etc. So that's where I'm getting, and it's just so fun. It's just so empowering. So you watch those. He did a documentary on race war, gentrification, 7 a.m. with millionaires and billionaires interviewed, and it's just so empowering to see.
And Black million, yeah.
Yeah, Black millionaires, and it's just so empowering to see. And I learn a lot, and a lot of things that I implement is from people like them. And I'm just so thankful because uh, my life's changed when I really started watching them heavy. I feel like I just feel so empowered, and I just want to share that to everybody I can.
Oh, that's great. Oh my gosh. So first of all, I want to apologize because I'm pretty sure I said your name wrong in the beginning. You gotta correct me. You gotta correct me, Bobby. All right.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this conversation so much. I am gonna say that I'm gonna annoy you because I definitely need you back on my show to enlighten us with some more education and knowledge. Like I love all my guests, but I've really never had a conversation like this. Like this was supposed to be 30 minutes and we were in for 2 hours. Like that's crazy. And I'm not cutting anything out because like this conversation was just amazing. Like this whole 2 hours, I was listening to you and at the same time thinking about ideas. Like I want you on my podcast again, but I also want to do something for the Black community that I want you to be a part of. I don't know yet, but I know you're going to be a part of it. And I just want to thank you for just graciously dropping knowledge on my podcast. Like everybody talks about their lives, which is so easy to talk about. They talk about what they've been through, which is not easy, but it's easy. And right. You came through with the knowledge, the facts, and just to hear like the passion you have at 19. Like, I don't know, at 22, I'm 22, and like I look into everybody and I don't I see how people move. And when I say everybody, I mean like groups, social groups, ages. Mm-hmm. And there's no 19-year-old like you. Like, come on, let's be real. There's no 19-year-old like you. And I definitely want you back because I really want you to educate, but I got to educate myself first before I come up against you again. That's right. I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. And you said annoy me all you want. Like if you want to know stuff, you like asking me questions, you see something in the news, you could text me, and I appreciate that. I love talking about these things, and it's just so amazing. Like, so if you ever want to, like, if you hear something like, Bobby, do you think this would be good for us or something? Just let me know. Like, I'd love to be talking about these things, and so yeah, I appreciate it.
No, yeah, you don't have to tell me twice. I love all my resources because I feel like my resources are are like great help. And to
Mhm.
have you now in my resource pocket is great. And I don't use my resources. I appreciate you guys from like the bottom of my heart. Like honestly, everybody that's ever helped me out to educate me, to just help me move forward in my life as a host or African American. Is I'm just grateful for it. Like I really am.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
And
Bobby.
yeah,
Say
appreciate
bye.
this. Fun. So,
No, wait, don't hang up. You just gotta say bye for the video.
all right, I'll say bye. All right.
But
Bye. Bye. Bye, video. Bye, everyone. It was
bye,
great.
roommates.
Hope you
Until
learned
next time.
something. I had so much fun, and I will definitely be back. This was so fun, and I love talking about these things. So I hope you guys enjoyed.
Make a little money, leave a little on the dresser. Yeah.